And welcome to Morning Coffee with Pazan Academy. I'm Deanna, and today I want to talk to you about an interesting article that I read about a homeschooling mom who talks about 4 things she wished she would have done differently, and also some things that she really thinks she was right on doing. Now, these things can be done if you're homeschooling, but there are also things that you can work on if your child is going to public or private school. The article was in the Federalist, and we'll put a link to it in the description below. The first thing she talks about is prioritizing character building and good habits first. Now, she mentions that she was very much, they would start the day and they would just go right into school. They would do different activities, but she put off, doing chores and learning manners and kind of just did that willy-nilly. And now that her kids are a little older, she wishes she would have started earlier. And so if you start creating good habits and teaching manners at a very young age, even things as simple as, chew with your mouth closed and don't put your elbows on the table, things that we heard when we were growing up, then they're going to learn those things and it's just going to be second nature to them. Things like, pick up after yourself. Don't just throw your dirty clothes on the floor, put them in the bin. Things like that. Now, it may seem like you're nagging at first, but if you teach the kids these things from a very young age, not only does it teach them good habits and it teaches them manners, but it becomes just second nature and they don't even have to think about it anymore. The second thing she mentions is to have a strong foundation of the basics. And she talks about her experience in homeschooling. And she homeschooled in Virginia, so they had so many historic sites and museums right there at their fingertips where they could go to Williamsburg or go to the Smithsonian. And so she spent a lot of time going to these places and just kind of thought that the kids would pick up on the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. And she noticed that even with other homeschool parents, when she became part of a co-op, that, you tend to do the easier things first or the fun things first. And you think that they're just going to pick up on these things, the hard skills, through these other activities. But what she says is that she should have spent more time on drills and, teaching these specific tasks of reading, writing, and arithmetic on their own and not just as kind of a secondary thing to this wider worldview of art and history. So if you want to learn a little more about this, click on the link to the article, and she has some recommendations for some other readings that you may be interested in. The third thing she mentions is that you should treat homeschooling like a job. And not that you're not taking it seriously, but that it is a job that you're doing, and so you need to schedule accordingly. If you have kids that are really young, preschool age, and you have older kids that you're schooling, then maybe you need a little help. Maybe a friend or a neighbor, family can help you with some childcare for their younger kids, and they can even come to your house and let you homeschool the older kids the way that you should without having to always have interruptions of the baby or something like that. Now, this is a little bit difficult for a lot of families, particularly if you're living in a rural area or you don't have a big network of support around you. But, it's just something to think about in how you can maybe shift your priorities and think of this as your number one priority, Monday through Friday, like you would if you were going to work at a job. And the fourth thing she mentioned is don't be afraid to change. If you're teaching something and you realize that it's really not the right direction for you to be going in, for instance, if you pick up Singapore math and you realize that this is not beneficial and it's very convoluted, and just because it is trending right now, it may not be the best for your family. So if you try something and it's not working, it's okay to change. And you're the teacher and you need to be the one driving the bus. You need to be the one that is driving the curriculum. Now, every student has favorite subjects and every child is going to be more interested in one thing than another. but they need to have a well-rounded education. And so if they hate math, you still need to focus some time on math, but maybe find a system that works better for you. And one thing in some of these new ways of teaching and these new trends in education is that you're not familiar, so you're having to figure it out as you go. And maybe it would be better for you to teach the way that you learned because you were able to learn it. And that's okay. So you can try these new things, but then realize, it may not be the best way, and it's definitely okay to change. And you don't have to do what everyone else is doing in terms of the methodology that you're using. So the things that she says that she got right is that if they were having a day and everyone was kind of having a meltdown, she would stop what they were doing and she would shift gears, and they would maybe bake something, but take that opportunity to learn. You can learn fractions with measurements of teaspoons and tablespoons. You can learn conversions. You can learn about science if you're baking bread and yeast and leavening. And so you can turn pretty much anything into an educational experience. So you also need to be able to adapt to what the day brings. She says that they always had outside time, no matter what the weather, and building in that outside play time for kids just to be curious and to explore, to get some sunshine. And, that is so important. I think so many kids today are lacking that. And that builds curiosity, going out and collecting bugs or looking at bugs and, looking at different plants and animals and then trying to identify them. That is learning, and that is, that's Aristotle. That's categorization of going out and observing the world. And so that outside time is really important. Another thing that she did is that she limited electronics. They didn't have a lot of electronics, whether it's video games, phones, or even television during the week. They spent their time reading and learning. And through that reading, they would read classic works, they would read works of history, and they would read aloud as a family. And that instilled a love of learning, a love of reading. They enjoy history. Because of that sense of togetherness with the family, she says her, older kids still read today. And they want to read right before bedtime. And those are great habits that you can instill. So whether you're homeschooling your children or your kids are going outside of the house to school, developing these good habits and teaching manners, having that limited use on electronics, being able to, get opportunities of learning, whether you're baking or you're doing anything, and definitely getting kids outside. Those are things you can do. It doesn't matter how your kids are being educated. So again, we'll have a link to this article in the description below. If you're enjoying what we're doing, please share with your friends, like our video, hit that notification bell, and follow our other social media accounts. The links are in the description below. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.